So in this video, I'm going to show you how to write about artworks in a peel paragraph. So you need to have completed your table, like so, your planning table, before we begin. In my previous video, that is what I showed you. So that is all done. We've got our bright color idea, comic book style, and aimed at youth. So when we are going to write in a peel strategy, we're mostly just going to focus on one of these ideas. And then you might use some of these other ideas to kind of back up what you're saying. So for what we have to do is write a response using full sentences with correct grammar and spelling to answer the question. We're going to use the information from the artwork and citation. Citation means this bit here. So the artist's name, the title of the artwork, the year, and the materials used to create the artwork. That's what we call citation. Also, we're going to use our planning graph above our table here to help us organize our ideas. Check, we've done that. And now we're going to use the peel strategy to structure your response. And you need to highlight each section, like the dot point, with a color as a check off that it's complete. This will help you make sure that you have everything that needs to be included in your writing. So the question is, explain how the artist, which is Roy Lichtenstein, has used pop art characteristics to create this artwork. So what we're going to do is I have kind of given you little starting points for each section. We've got point, evidence, explain, and link. You're going to refer to this table above up here on what needs to go in each section. Okay, make sure these are all in the correct sections. That's the point of this activity. So first one says name of the artist and the title of the artwork in inverted commas. Now I've actually already given you that one. So what we can do now is we can just highlight it and say, yep, done. Awesome. So next we're going to describe the artwork briefly. What can you see in the work? Okay. So obviously we can see like some sort of explosion happening here. We can see a plane over here to the left. So we might actually read what this speech bubble says. I pressed the fire control and ahead of me, rockets blazed through the sky. Wham! Okay, so it's actually telling us that, oh, okay, cool. He's actually shot a missile at this plane. It's collided, wham, and now it's exploding. That is what we might describe in the work. So we might go down here now. And so I've given you the first point, which is name of the artist, Roy Lichtenstein, and the title of the artwork in inverted commas. But I've also just made it a sentence. I just haven't written Roy Lichtenstein, wham, okay? We are writing in full sentences. That's the point of this activity. So I've written Roy Lichtenstein made the pop artwork Whaam in 1963. So it's kind of introducing your readers into the topic you were writing about. So now I need to describe the work. So I might just say the artwork depicts. Depicts is a good word to always use when you're talking about artworks. A fighter plane shooting a missile at an enemy plane in a fiery explosion. So now that's all you have to do for the second dot point. It's just briefly describe it. We've done that. And now we're just going to go and mark it off. Now, the next point is make your point in relation to the question, but don't give examples yet. So we need to actually remember that we are answering a question, and the question is explain how the artist has used pop art characteristics to create the work. So pretty much you need to say whether has the artist used pop art characteristics or not, okay? And we are going to agree that yes, he has. All right, so for our next part, we're just going to say that, and we're just going to call him by his last name from now on until the end. Lichtenstein has successfully used a number of pop art characteristics. See how I'm putting the question in what I'm writing to create wham. You can keep it in inverted commas. That's all you need for point. That's point done. So we've made our point in relation to the question, which was, yep, he has successfully used a number of pop art characteristics to create the artwork. So we're going to go up to the top now and mark it off. We haven't given examples yet. That's in our next section. All right, so now we're going to provide evidence or one of the examples, one of our 3 ideas from the artwork that backs up the point we are making. And then we're going to describe the example. So I have decided to choose from my ideas, I'm going to choose comic book style. That's a characteristic of pop art. So I'm going to go now to evidence, and I've actually given you a little starting point. All right, all you have to do is finish this sentence. So one of the most obvious characteristics in the artwork is Lichtenstein's use of a comic book style. Okay, so finish that sentence. So you might say Lichtenstein's use of bright color. Here you might say Lichtenstein's use of aiming at youth. Okay, so aiming at youth is a little, not quite as strong. Okay, but you can use this to back up some of your other ideas. So bright color or comic book is always a good one. Lots to write about. Aimed at youth is kind of a good reason of why they have used this style, because they were trying to appeal to youth, which we'll talk about in explain. So now I'm just going to describe how I know it's a comic book style. Okay, and I'm going to say this can be seen in his use of large, bold text. I'm looking at my descriptions here. I'm going to start with use of bold text, and I'm going to pretty much just list these facts here. Okay, so this can be seen in his use of large bold text, speech bubbles, narrative, and cropped composition. Remember, composition means how it's been arranged. That's all you have to do for evidence. You're not describing what it does, like why the artist has done this yet. You're just identifying the evidence here. So if you've said one of the most obvious characteristics in the artwork is Lichtenstein's use of bright color, you would then say, as seen in his use of red, yellow, and blue. And then you might say, these primary colors can also be described as a triadic color scheme. Okay, and that's all you have to do in evidence. It's just kind of describe the piece of evidence that you're bringing forward. So now we're going to go to and mark that off. Mark all of that off. We're done with evidence. We're going to go on to now explain. Explain how and why the artist and the artwork demonstrates this idea. So let's go down here and finish this sentence that I've started for you. Lichtenstein has used a comic book style in Whaam. And why do we think he has done this? I like to believe that he has done a comic book style to aim his artwork at youth. And to reckon he's trying to appeal to a younger audience. So I'm going to use that as a reason as to why the artist has done this. So Lichtenstein has used a comic book style in Whaam to aim his artwork at youth. Now, if you have said bright color, you might say Lichtenstein has used a triadic color scheme in Whaam to make the colors contrast, stand out, appear dramatic, and more vibrant to the audience. Okay, pretty much the reason why he has used it is to be eye-catching and exciting. So, but now we actually have to go on a little bit more further. So we've kind of briefly touched on, explain why the artist has done this, but now we need to kind of explain how. So there's kind of 2 parts to explain. Explain should be quite a bit more longer than evidence. So we have a little bit more writing to do. So let's go to our explain and go, like, how has he done this pretty much? So he's achieved this by using a scene of action, speed, and explosion. We also need to expand upon this a little bit more. So let's keep using information from our facts. So he has achieved this by using a scene of action, speed, and explosion. Let's go on and continue to explain. Lichtenstein has mimicked a comic strip by depicting the narrative, as you can see in the humorous speech bubbles and bold text, which tells the audience what is happening, just like a comic does. We might also talk about colour. Additionally, each of the depicted colours have been used in bold, flat areas of colour without tone, which is a typical characteristic of a comic. So see how that is a little bit more, has a bit more depth and breadth. So it's more in depth, has more detail, because it's in our explain section. So we're explaining how he has used pop-art characteristics. So we can't just say that it's aimed at youth and he's used comic book. You also need to explain a little bit more, how has this been aimed at youth and how is it depicting a comic book style. So now at the end for link, we can now cross this off. Explain is done. Now we're just going to for link. Link is like a conclusion. We're going to say a concluding sentence where you would restate the name of the artist in full and the title of the artwork. And then we would just sum up the points that we made in evidence and explain. I've already written a beginning sentence for you. Therefore is a really good word to use in a conclusion because it's a summing up word. Therefore, Roy Lichtenstein has successfully used pop-up characteristics in Whaam 1963. This was seen in his use of, so this is where we would summarize what we said in evidence and explain. So this was seen in his use of a comic book style in the artwork. And just we might also have a look through here and talk about how he mimicked a comic strip characteristic, which contains mimicked comic strip characteristics by using action and narrative. So I'm just picking bits that I talked about in here. So we know he depicted a narrative and he used action to appeal to a younger youth or aimed at youth. So I'm actually going to write that in my summary to show that I have an understanding of the points that I have talked about and explained. Has mimicked comic strip characteristics by using action and narrative. And why has he done this? So as to appeal to a younger audience. And now we are finished with our appeal paragraph. So this is how you write quite a sophisticated appeal paragraph for a person of your age, but you can use this to help you write future appeal paragraphs, using this as an understanding. A video demonstration to go back and watch. I'm not going to give this to you word for word because you're not going to learn just by copying and pasting, but here it is for a sample, and I'm going to give you guys another test run of an unseen artwork so that you can learn from this one and all by yourself attempt the next one. So we've done this one together. I still need you to have a go at this. You might choose a different idea though, or not just write exactly what I'm writing word for word. So you might choose to depict yours in a bright color for an idea.